What if Ruby was raised by the Grimm, also known as the Black Rose series? We start off as Ruby is waking up. Ugh, why does my head hurt? As she wakes up and, well, sees her sister, the White Grimm, standing right in front of her. Oh, what is it? As then she moves the scroll that fell out of her pocket. She picks it up and starts to read, as it's about this festival Beacon is hosting, where people from all other schools um, in the Ruby universe are coming together and have competition. That'd be the perfect time to attack. Their guards will be all on the festival. As she sets her hand on her sister's head. Thank you for your assistance. But I'm definitely going to need to scout out to make sure everything goes according to plan, which means I'm going to have to hide amongst them. As she puts her hands through her hair. As she puts her weapon on her back, as it was laying on the ground next to her. Well, I'm going to have to go out. As she goes to the, exit of the cave. Well, I'm going off. As she waves at the Grimm, as all the Wolf Grimms are at the entrance waiting for her. As a lot of them start to follow her, as she turns around and says, "No, go back to the cave. I must do this by myself." Do I make myself clear? As she glares at all the Grimm following her. As they nod. As her brother, which Wolf Grimm, I'm going to name him, you know what, Shadow, because why not? Shadow refuses to leave her sister's side. Very well, Shadow. If you want, you can stay in my shadow while we move. As the Wolf Grimm starts to wag his tail before hopping into Ruby's shadow. As we go above the tree line and see Ruby approaching the town, which is the big town of where Beacon's near and all that. As she walks into town, looking around, seeing all the faces, as then she walks by a store and sees a lot of police officers and all that. As she has her hood down, as she wants to figure out what happened, as she goes over and asks, "What happened here?" Well, someone killed the bookstore owner, apparently. We're still investigating. We have no idea who it is. We're still looking for the culprits. But it was a faunus. As she hears those words, a faunus. Yes. But we're on the case, ma'am. Don't worry. We'll find whoever murdered him, and we'll have the murderers in prison as soon as possible. As she nods before leaving, as she quickly says something, "Don't you dare go kill them. I can't risk having you be spied in town in broad daylight." As we see that a small pall of shadows was out of the shadow, as it slowly descends back in. As she's walking around looking for more, well, information. As then she hears a cruise ship. As she walks towards it. As she gets there, she's hiding behind a wall. As she peeks over and sees a faunus while hopping off board, who would look like he's stolen a banana, and is now running. And she also knows team, basically Ruby's team, plus John. As she sees them, as she quickly turns the corner, it's them again. As she keeps an eye on them, as Weiss goes after the faunus, Blake ran off, if I remember. Penny is with Yang and John. As Weiss ran off, Blake ran off. As she looks over at Penny, John, and Yang. As Yang looks over at the direction where Ruby was looking as she quickly hid behind, well, the wall, as Yang saw a black cloak. But that's all she saw. And that was close. As Ruby wants to keep an eye on these people, as she knows they're hunters and huntresses. As she, well, uses their semblance, it goes up to the roof. As she starts to watch them. She watches them leave before getting back to what she was originally doing, scouting out the area. As she's checking all spots and all that, it's going to be really hard for us to do an attack, especially if security is this high. Maybe if we have all the huntresses in one area, we could do most critical damage around the city. May even destroy Beacon while we're at it. As she's walking around, she stops as she sees a dust store. A dust store. Interesting. As she walks closer to it, then she suddenly stops. As she doesn't know why she stops, until she realizes Shadow is holding her shadow into place. As she quickly runs into the alleyway so no one sees Shadow. As Shadow hops out of Ruby's shadow, why did you stop me, Shadow? As he starts to growl a bit. What do you mean you don't like the dust? As he starts to growl again. Fine. I was simply thinking we could use something for a trap or something. But if you don't like the dust, I'll leave it there. As Shadow gets back into her shadow. What was that all about? As she walks by the store. I guess I must find something else. As she goes on for about a few hours, scoping out the area and more, she comes across, well, a store that intrigued her interest. As she looks up, it looks like an old trading shop. As she opens the door and enters, as she looks around the room, she sees books, she sees items, she sees bracelets, necklaces, a lot. As then she knows something. As she walks over to a stone. As the owner comes over, are you looking at a grimstone? As she looks over, a grimstone? Yes, it says after a very powerful grim was defeated. Every once in a while, these stones are, well, recorded. They're very rare, you know. Rare, you say? Yes, it says it contains a power of the grim that, well, perished in it. Although it's only a myth, I've never even heard of it. It was only a rumor back in my old village. But I thought it would be something interesting to sell here at the shop. After all, I'm not even sure if that is the actual thing or a fake. As Ruby takes an interest in this thing, as she picks it up, you know what? It could be interesting. As, how much money do you want? As, the money, he just says a random price, and Ruby pays for it. And, I'm not going to really say the price because I don't really know how they use currency in Ruby. So she pays for it, and then walks out. As she looks at the black stone that resembles a bit of a Grimm's face, and she puts it in her pocket. If it's useless, I'll just keep it as a souvenir. As she continues walking, as it's nighttime, as then she's walking about near the crates, as she hears commotion, as she decides to jump on a building, and looks well, at the White Fang, doing their little investigation thing. Huh. Seems the White Fang is doing something. As she grabs the binoculars she stole from Hunter and zooms in, it seems like that they're trying to steal dust. As then, of course, is where Yang, or I would say Penny, Yang, and, you know, as they appear, and they do the same thing as in canon, just stop the White Fang and pretty much all that. As she's observing this from a distance, those students and hunters in training are strong. But what should I do? There'll be a problem if I run into them in the future. They're quite skilled. As she then turns her weapon around and points it at someone, come out from where you're hiding. As someone comes out as he's wearing a grim mask. As she then puts her weapon away. I thought it was someone else. Well, if it isn't, well. What, you forgot my name already? I'm just also known as the Grim Bear, as he has a bear skull, as we see. What is it you want? Listen, Black Rose, I know it's been a while since our last conversation, and that was with my scythe to your throat. Calm down, calm down. I'm not here for fighting. And also, your Grim already has his claws to my neck. As we see that Shadow had appeared out of Ruby's shadow and has his claws to, well, this person that claims to be Grim Bear. Now, please call off your Grim. I've got no intentions of fighting you. As she simply just nods as Shadow goes back into her shadow. What is it? I thought you might want to know of someone. Ever heard the name Salem? No. She's who controls pretty much all of the Grim. But what I've happened to notice over my travels is that your Grim are no longer connected to Salem. What does that have to do with anything? And the fact that she hasn't found out is a bit strange. How are you controlling these Grim? That is none of your business. I'm just relaying information I've gotten. Have you told anyone else about this? No. I respect you, Black Rose. After all, as he lifts up his cloak, revealing a scar on his arm, you did give me this scar. You nearly severed my arm a few years ago. We were both young. Well, younger than they were. I'd say about 9, Ruby was. And the guy's only like 2 years older than her. But what we have in common is both of us were raised by Grim. Yes, I am aware of that. But you did kill your Grim that raised you, didn't you? Partially. It was either to leave, well, her to die with that wound, or end her suffering. What's the real reason you came here, Grim Bear? I came here to form an alliance. Because I know you're going to make an enemy of Salem. Still have no idea who that is. Salem is who controls all the Grim. When she finds out that these Grim have lost her connection to her, she will definitely want them back. I will not let that happen. I'm aware of that. But I am warning you. She will discover it soon, and you must be prepared. I will be. But what's with this alliance thing you propose? I wish to join you in your little crusade for revenge. After all, I do have a small grudge against the hunters as well. You also want to help the faunuses, don't you? How do you know? As the man takes off his mask, as we see a pair of bear ears, I knew you were a bear faunus. Ah, nothing slides past you, does it, Rose? Nothing does. I've been very vigilant over these years, preparing my siblings for battle. And you've been off searching for knowledge. Of course I have. I'm a very curious person. And I've not told anyone of your existence per our agreement. The agreement we made a year ago. Yes, that one. When you started your little revenge journey. As, let's talk somewhere else. As she looks around and sees more of security planes coming in to secure the area because of what happened with Roman Torchwick and the White Fang. Very well, let's leave. As both of them jump off a building they were on, and they are over at the crime scene building where they had already left the site and they had removed the Faunus corpse. Why are we here? Oh, well, I knew the person in this building. He was a Faunus that had a very, rebelled against the White Fang and was leaving. I see. Have you joined the White Fang? Of course not. I do not agree with their actions. But I do wish for Faunus all over to be treated like equals. You know, I don't care who you are, as long as I can trust you. It doesn't matter who you are or what race you are. I know that, Rose. So, as he sits down at the owner's chair, what I wanted to discuss with you is that, when do you plan to attack exactly? Beginning or maybe the end of the festival, towards nightfall, is where I'm going for. Nightfall. That would be a splendid idea, I definitely agree. But Salem is also going to try something at this festival. Maybe you can let her attack first. You're right. And while everyone's busy at the festival, I will infiltrate Beacon. And I'll start destroying it from the inside. That would be a splendid idea. But if I may ask, how did your Grimm there get that ability? I have no idea how he got the ability to transfer and form into shadows. There are a few other Grimm that have managed to obtain powers similar. I've never seen Grimm like them before. And I've been all over the place in search of different types of Grimm for my research. As he pulls out a book, I've come across Sea Grimm, Bee Grimm, Bear Grimm, Wolf Grimm, Mammoth Grimm, and the list goes on. As he has a list, images and all. What is your fascination with these Grimm anyway? Of course, you know I love the Wolf Grimm. They're my family. But I still understand why you intend to research them. Well, you see, I see the Grimm as something more than evil. As you do, essentially. They're the dominant species of this planet, I would say. We're merely intruding on their land. So you're saying we should be wiped out? No, 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 no. I'm not referring to that at all. I am saying we must have done something to upset for these Grimm to attack us. That only lies in the ancient history we have no knowledge of. You're right, unfortunately. But I think I know a person that may be able to answer my questions. Who would that be? Salem is definitely off the table. If I go try to mess with her, I would get my head decapitated faster than, well, I could say the word Grimm. True. I don't know much about Salem, but if she controls Grimm, she's definitely a threat to me. Yes, I definitely say she would be. But I do want to ask you this, and tell you who I'm referring to. Go on. Do you know what those eyes of yours do? They're silver eyes, right? I've only managed to see them in the reflection of ponds and water. Yes, but do you know what makes Grimm fear them? And also Salem. As Ruby raises an eyebrow. Go on. But now back to what I was talking to. The person I'm referring to for my knowledge is Professor Ozpin, the principal of Beacon Academy. As she then gets angry and grabs her scythe and destroys the bookshelf next to her and points her scythe towards, well, Bear Mask. Grimm. And why would you bring him up? He's the leader of the hunters. I'd like to see his head on the floor. Listen. I know you do not like Ozpin, as he's pretty much the leader of, well, the hunters in this area. But he holds knowledge that could be valuable. So I do want to ask you, if you do come across him, do not kill him. I would like to ask him a few questions. Are you sure? Because if my Grimm get their hands on him, I cannot make any promises. All I ask is you at least try. Fine. Is there anything else? As she puts her scythe away. Let me think. No, nothing else really. But may I know where you are currently living? And why would that be? As she starts to tilt her head. Oh, come on, can't old friends just go back and chill where their home is at? For old time's sake. As then she starts to, well, giggle a little bit. You really should see the Grimm behind you right now. As he's confused. As then Apollo comes into view. As he turns around and Shadow's just standing there. And his eyes are looking directly into, well, his eyes. Well, you know what? Let me correct that phrasement. May I please know where you're at so I can able to contact you? As she signals to Shadow to just stop. As he disappears back into Ruby's shadow. Very well, you know the big cliffs and all that towards the north. North past Beacon, right? Yes. There. There's a big cave system. You'll see a lot of wolf Grimm in the area. I live near there. Do not kill any of the wolf Grimm if you come to visit. As she goes to the exit of the store. Very well. Also, let me tell you the name of Salem's person involved here. As she turns her head, as the cloak still covers her face. The name is Cinder. And they're after the Fall Maiden. As she looks confused, as she turns back around. the Fall Maiden. As then she touches her head as information starts to flow in it. As she then just takes it off. Yes, the Fall Maiden. Has what, the powers of fall? I can't remember. Fire, right? Yes, if I remember, I believe that is correct. Or was it? Yeah, I believe that was correct. But anyway, I thought I would let you know. If you could get rid of Cinder, that would be a good help on my part. As she sighs, before grabbing a little white mask that was right next to her. Again, what is with these grim masks you constantly have me grab for you? It's just a hobby of mine. I collect them. Also, you prefer the grim masks of your wolves, don't you? As she just turns around to leave. I have had enough of this conversation. If you need me for something important, you know where to find me. As she opens the door, as she turns into rose petals and leaves. Ah, stubborn as ever, but to be expected, that is Rose, Black Rose. At least I know I have someone on my side when things go south here. But everything is going splendid for me. As he gets up and walks out of the store. As we see him pull out a book. As he opens it and we see the words, must warn her at all cost. As he checks it off the list. She's been warned about Salem. My task is done. As he puts the book away. And that is the end of part 5 of What If Ruby Was Raised by the Grimm, also known as Black Rose. Hopefully y'all like this series and make sure to like and subscribe for more.